Welcome to the P.A.S. Report podcast. If you're tired of censorship, outraged by government abuses, and thirsty for real insights, then you're in the right place. Get ready, because here, the fight for freedom never ends. Here's your host, Professor Nick Giordano.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the P.A.S. Report podcast. It's your host, Nick Giordano. I'm glad you could join me. Make sure that you follow and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Also, visit the P.A.S. Report website, pasreport.com, and share this episode with your family and friends. It's July 4th week, and I got a great guest that's coming on. I have John Paul Moran, the founder and CEO of Grand Opportunity USA. You can visit their website at go-usa.us. And I'll have links up at the PAS report to check it out, so make sure you visit. And John, welcome to the program. How are you today?
Thank you, Nick. Great. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you on. And when we look at Grand Opportunity USA, what you're doing, I think, is going to revolutionize politics in a certain way. So I want you to explain to the audience about what your organization is doing, particularly with the Opscore challenge, and why this metric is so important for both voters and candidates. But don't reveal any of your findings yet, because that's going to go into my second question.
Okay, great. So yes, my name is John Paul Moran. As you can see, this jacket, I've been known for wearing this Go USA. It says Go USA on the back, stands for Grand Opportunity USA. We also are involved with running another nonprofit, a 501c3. It's all education. It's called Grand Opportunity United, or Go United. And both organizations leverage this new, relatively new technology and app called the Opscore, Opportunity Score. And that's kind of the main thrust of our organization is talking about the purpose of government is providing more opportunities for a better life, right? People want a better life, not a worse life, right? We're the land of opportunity. We were invented. This country was effectively created to deliver liberty, freedom, and opportunity for all in America. And that's why we're obsessed, and that's why we're the word opportunity. Grand Opportunity USA, it's called the Opportunity Score. Opscore in short, and we rate politicians. And you could also rate yourself, and you can do a personality test and match up to see who you align with on the issues that matter most. So we just thought the country needed a better system to be able to assess these public officials who work for us. They're our employees. They're not kings. They think that they're in charge. They think that they're royalty, and that we're just these. We're the servants. That's the mentality of certain establishment, what you call an establishment, a progressive. That's what they think. But no, America is about the people that work for us. And so we invented a tool to help your average everyday citizen voter who's not a political wonk, who doesn't spend 24 hours a day thinking about politics like I do, to make it easy, because most people don't want to live their life in politics. They want just an easy to go, like Rotten Tomatoes, Yelp scores. These things exist in the consumer world all over the place. Any product you want to buy, you want to see a movie, you'll check out Rotten Tomatoes, right? A restaurant, you'll probably check out the Yelp score. You want to buy a car, you'll probably look at Carfax or computer, or consumer reports or something. This is where people go before they buy. And we're just saying, hey, before you vote, do the same thing. Go to the Opscore and see where this person stands on the issues.
It's interesting because when you look at the way the American voters behave, first of all, I think voter turnout's disgracefully low in this country, particularly when it comes to local elections. You only have about 10 to 20% of those eligible to vote turning out to vote. And even in presidential elections, normally it hovers anywhere from 48 to 55%. Sometimes it's a little bit higher, but it really is pathetic. And when people do vote, a lot of times they don't really know the candidates. They just either vote by name recognition or party identification. And so they're probably voting against their own interests. What have you found with the Opscore? And when you look at how Americans go out there and participate in the political process, is the division that the media likes to push and the politicians push, is the division on the issues real, or do you think it's overblown?
Okay, the division is overblown for sure, first of all. And there's also an obsession with the enemies of good voting, of a proper republic when it comes to the way we vote, are obsession with personality and single issues. Single issues and personality are the downfall of the system, because people I don't like this person's personality. You're not sitting in the office working next to them. I can see it if you're working next to them in the office. You have to deal with the personality. You don't have to deal with this person's personality. What matters much more than their personality is where they're standing on the issues. That's what affects you as a voter. The taxes, jobs, safe communities, these have direct effect on your life, not the person's personality. And then the second thing is there's a myriad of things that people care about 30, give or take, 25 or 30 top issues that people are concerned about. There's other issues, but we look at about 25 issues that people care about. And when you add them all together, that's what matters is what's someone's kind of comprehensive score versus, where does somebody stand on abortion? Well, you know what? 24 hours a day, are you really going to be affected by that one issue as more importantly than having a job, than getting shot on the street by a criminal or by having your kids go to school and not learn? I mean, there's other things to look at. And that's why we said, let's add it all up and make it easy to go, an easier way for people to assess these people. And the other thing is there's a lot more unity in the country, and I'll get to that in your next question, but there's a lot more unity in this country than people think. Actually, a lot more. Common sense does have a funny way of prevailing. Common sense is common sense. And we were going to call it the common sense score, but you can't trademark that. So there would be 50 companies having a common sense score. So we said, well, it is a common sense score ultimately, but we call it the opportunity score or Opscore.
Well, explain to the audience, what are some of the results that you found?
Well, I'll say that real quick before I get the results, if I can, we base it on a very, very core part of our system is this 5-point star, the American star, the 5 points, because people need an easy way to assess, right? So if you care about education, school choice, you'll go to the third point in the stars is down here. So I'll show this as an infographic, right? We have a logo with a circle, and it's personal opportunity at the top, which is constitutional rights, liberties, freedoms, and then economic opportunity, social opportunity, educational opportunity, then national opportunity. So if you're concerned about borders, you'd probably be looking at, okay, I'm going to go to national opportunity. If you care about healthcare, you go to social opportunity, right? If you care about taxes, you'll get economic. If you care about your First Amendment or Second Amendment rights or the 10th Amendment, you're going to go to the top of the star. So we make it easy for a voter to get right down to what the issues they care about most are on the issue. So that's first of all, I want to kind of lay that groundwork. So you said, what did we find through the system? What we found is that there's about an 80% plus agreement on the issues. When you add up all the issues together and total them up, 85% of the people that took the survey, we reached we reached millions of people with our ads and impressions, and we've got thousands of people that take the opportunity test to match themselves up with their politicians to say on the exact same things we rate everybody in Congress. We rated everybody, every member of U.S. House and the U.S. Senate and the presidency, we rated, and their challengers last year across all these metrics. And then we go and we say, okay, you take the test, where you stand on the issues that you care about most. So we ask about school choice, we ask about taxes, we ask about government corruption and fraud, we ask about the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, packing the courts, safe communities, borders. We ask these questions, say, where do you stand? And then you can see where your politician stands. And when we do that, we found that on the issues, it is a very strong agreement that would 67% is the data we have of people line up strongly with America First values. And whether you call that, I'm not calling it Republican because we're not partisan, but if you just have to say, how do we label something? Well, America First, putting the people first, limiting the government, lowering taxes. These are the things that people care about. These are top issues, and about 67% agree with those issues more strongly, and there's about another 20% that are moderately or modestly in agreement with those issues, but more so than with the left. About 15% of people support what would be considered progressive politics today, and the extreme left, what would you say, maybe where there's a New York City mayor there's a guy running for mayor in New York City.
A nice little communist.
Madavi, what's his last name?
Mamdani.
I can't remember his name. But on the issues, this guy is proudly saying he's a socialist. He's loudly saying he's for the global intifada, which is like extreme violent Islamism. He's for the global intifada, which is a war against Western civilization. This guy's got, on the issues, he's got 1% support. We know, we haven't fully rated him yet, but looking at Elizabeth Warren, AOC, and these other far left politicians, they only have 1% of support on the issues. We have data proving that. Isn't that crazy that they think that they're the voice of democracy when they have 1%? And this guy wants to run New York with 1% support of the people? That's really what the numbers show.
I find that amazing. And when you actually look at how unpopular his platform actually is, but then you watch the media and they're all falling all over this guy. You know, there are some Democrats that are pushing back against him. I think he's a Democrat's worst nightmare because he'll become the face of the party. When we look at the Opscore that you put out there, whether it's people want to go to a website and take the Opscore themselves or they want to look up politicians, when you say the idea of America first, I mean, it does make sense. We work in our national, our self-interest, like individuals, as human beings. People always gravitate towards their own self-interest. Why have politicians and the political parties grown so out of touch with the American people?
Well, I would say that I wouldn't say it's all political parties. The people that do well on the score that are lying closest to the people are as MAGA. I mean, it's a fact. We're not partisan, but the fact of the data is MAGA Republicans line up closest to the American people by far, by a long shot. As I said, about 85-15. So it's not even a contest. Now, I'd say what we'd call the establishment, there's people that care more about themselves. There's a political class that wants power and control at all costs. And there's people on both sides of the aisle. We'd say both sides. There's also people called libertarians, and there's also people called Green Party, right? But ultimately, it's the red and the blue parties that are really running the country. And it makes sense because when you're in power and you want power and control, you're not working for the people. You're working for yourself. And that's the problem we're trying to solve is stop these people working for themselves. They work for us. And we have a rating system finally that says when you add up all the issues, are you lining up with the people or are you working against them? Are they working for you or against you? That's the vernacular we use. Who's working for you and who's working against you? And we have the data to show it. So when you have these people saying we don't want voter ID, okay, that's 85% of people want that. We don't want school choice. Again, 80% of us people want school choice. I understand that minority Americans actually are more for school choice than white Americans, and that's because they're the inner cities are the people that get it the worst. But the teachers unions care about themselves and in their employment. They don't care about the kids, and that's not what the job of a teacher is. But yet the teachers union is siding with the teachers over the kids. That's just a couple examples. So they want power and control, and the will of the people will hinder their power and control. They don't want the people in charge. They want to be in charge. So
I think you bring up a really good point with the whole school choice issue. It doesn't impact the wealthy elite neighborhoods, right? They're going to send their children to either the great public school because it has tons of funding, or they'll have the money to send their kids to private school. The reality is school choice helps those from the communities that are struggling, where the infrastructure broke, the education system has collapsed, and it's a whole myriad of issues. I mean, we're looking at the big, beautiful bill. Obviously, that's the topic of the week, with July 4th also. But when we look at the big, beautiful bill, Democrats coming out there saying how Republicans want to cut taxes for billionaires, yet in this bill, it actually no tax on tips. We see the no tax on overtime. Well, that's helping the working class out. It's not helping the billionaires out. At what point do you think the politicians will begin to look at these op stores in order to start refining their messages, maybe begin to actually put the American people's interests first before their own, and realize that public service doesn't mean to rule over, it means to serve the public?
Yes, I mean that you said it perfectly. I mean, what our mission is to fix politics ultimately by having a system where simply the people can assess these people. If I had my way, I'd put a video camera on all these people, like the police have. We should have a camera. We should be able to watch when they're at work, at least, maybe not at home, but when they're at work, I'd love to have a damn camera on them and just be like, we're tracking you, we're monitoring you, every breath you take, every move you make, we know what you're doing.
Every lobbyist you're sitting with?
Yes, or if you're communist spies, Eric Swalwell. Okay. These are the people that are just absolute scumbags that are only out for themselves and their own power. And no one wants that. No one supports that. What's interesting is the Iran situation. Iran, they say that about 20% of the people support the mullahs and 80% don't. I heard stories that there's a tremendous number of growing Christendom in the underground there, and that no one goes to the mosques anymore. And this is being force fed. And the people in power and control and all their cronies, that's the 20% that support them. But 80% of the people don't want them, but yet they're being ruled by them. And it's funny because the numbers are about the same here, 15, 20%. 15% support the left, and yet they're vying for power. It's like, how does that work in a country that's supposed to be like you have people that can vote freely, And if they actually vote on the issues, all those people are out forever. They would never come back. I don't care what party you belong to. If you're working for against the people, then get out. The people and the Constitution, that's what we rate on. We rate on, they follow the Constitution, which is a handful of constitutional issues. So that takes precedence over the people. So if 51% of people don't want freedom of speech, which was close to 50% believe that hate speech should be banned. The problem with the average person is they don't understand that who decides what hate speech is. And the last administration was saying if you are a Christian and you are Catholic, you were considered a potential terrorist for being a Catholic. This is true. There's proof of this. So if you were for school choice, if you were a Catholic, a traditional Catholic, they would consider you an enemy of the people, and that would be considered hate speech. So in no time, okay, anybody that just supports the Constitution would be considered hate speech. So that's what's dangerous about it. The point is, the Opscore says, okay, if it's the Constitution comes first, but then it's the will of the people. And that's simply the job of the politicians, we think. And then we're rating them on their job description. They swear on the Constitution and they swear an oath to the will of the people. That's it. That's your job. If you don't do that, you're fired. And that's the way it should be for everybody in Congress, all the way to the White House. And down also the state level. We're looking to start to rate state level offices next.
That's going to be so important, especially in places like New York. Now, how does your organization reach out to independents, maybe disaffected Democrats, conservatives? What kind of responses do you see across those spectrums?
Well, what's interesting is that I think it's just the way we position it. Our first line is one of our lines is it's not red versus blue, it's them versus you. So people feel disarmed. That disarms people. Like, oh, they're not going to come out as a bright red MAGA. No, MAGA people do better on the scoring system because that's just the facts. That's the fact, Jack. It's not our fault. It's not our fault that the Democrats don't do as good. It's because one ideology is in political movement is supporting the people and according to the job description I just mentioned. The other one is not. But 10, 20, 30 years ago, the parties are much closer. Our evidence from the people we kind of sampled, JFK had the same score as Ronald Reagan. And JFK was a Democrat. Ronald Reagan was, 200 years later, Ronald Reagan was a Republican. So the point is, looking at the numbers, though, how do we reach these people? I think people find it refreshing when you say it's not red versus blue. Just they work for you. Just vote for yourself. Line yourself up. Take the quiz. See where they stand. You don't have to take the quiz. You can just look at their scores. But if you take the assessment, it's easier because now you have a number. You know where you stand, and you can it's much easier to match up. I'd love to see a day where nobody votes in America without checking the Opscores.
Sure, you would.
I would love to see a day like you drive to go to you're driving somewhere, you're going on vacation, you're going to an appointment. Usually look at the maps, right? Don't use Google Maps or Apple Maps. Like who takes out Rand McNally and look at who does that anymore, right? Who takes a big map?
Well, the younger generation doesn't know how to use an atlas.
They don't even know.
They would be totally lost with that.
If you're under 30, you probably even know what a Rand McNally map is. But the point is, it's simple as this. Just the people that are like Democrats, independents, we're saying we don't care what party you're at. Line yourself up according to the issues, and we make it easy too. So, for example, if someone says, "Okay, where's this person on the Second Amendment?" or where is this person on their on school choice or prisons, prison reform, we actually require not only saying where the person stands, we put the data in because most politicians don't take the quiz. We ask them to do it. Most don't. So we rate them anyway. So the New York City's mayor race, we're going to rate everybody whether they like it or not. It's not their choice. It's just like a credit rating. We just re-rate them based upon available data that we find. So that's it. So we say, okay, if you're a Democrat, then who cares? Just line yourself up. If you line up with a far left person, then vote for that person. But we find that to be about 15% of the country that lines up with the Democrats today, according to the policies, because they're against the American people on issue after issue after issue after issue. They're proudly saying they're working against you. They're actually saying it.
Well, and I think that I want to touch on that because in the country, I do believe that we need two vibrant political parties at the very least. I think that's what keeps things honest. I mean, we saw in the mid-1990s how that worked, and it worked out well, right? We got balanced budget. We started generating surpluses. We got welfare reform. I mean, there was a lot of success in the Clinton administration. He would be considered like a rabid conservative in today's day and age by the far left. But when we look at Grand Opportunity USA, when we look at this Opscore, this can actually save the Democrat Party, right? Because if the politicians begin to check it out and see where the people lie, well, maybe they could bring sanity back to their party. They could begin to moderate their positions, correct?
Correct. Yes. And honestly, my feeling is if a party's working against the people provably over and over again, that party might just, I don't care what party it is. If the party is a party that consistently works against the Constitution and will of the people, then it's the people's choice. As my sixth generation great uncle Thomas Jefferson said, it's the people, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish any form of government that does not serve the will of the people, that violates your rights. And as form of government, I don't care whatever form of government that is, that might include parties. I'm not advocating that, but I'm saying major reform, or you know what? Smash it to bits and come up with a new party. But the party structure, that's part of the problem, is the parties have too much power. It should be the people and the will. Think about all these representatives as all they're all independent. Vote on the person and what they're doing for you, and the less power we give the parties, the better across the board. I don't think many people would disagree with that. So just reduce the power of the party, put more power into, are you doing your job? If not, you're fired. And now we can look at you and see whether you're doing your job or whether you're corrupt and paid off. And if that's the case, then you're fired the next. If enough people use this scoring system, we also tracking things like corruption. That's a new feature that we're rolling out soon, called a dirt alert, which is not on issues, but it's more on what's your character. We're pulling some data on that. And now you have a really comprehensive way to see whether you want to support this person or not. So, the two-party system, great, but maybe it's time for just 100 parties. Maybe also, but all that matters is not the party, it's the person that you're hiring.
Well, what's frustrating to me is the founding fathers actually warned about this. You go back to James Madison and the Federalist Papers, and he warned about the dangers of factions. And we look at it, when people get so deeply entwined with the factions, they care more about the power of the faction than the country as a whole. But I'm really interested in that corruption score you're going to give. What kind of data are you going to be pulling to determine that?
Yeah, well, the challenge here is this, that our system does not look at personality. It's all about issues. And so the Opscore is going to remain on the top issues across the 5 points of opportunity. And that there are things that, you vote on, things that they're vote on positions on. That's got to be kept sacrosanct. That's your score. That's your rating. It's like a college, right? When you get your GPA, that doesn't look at the personality of you or your professor, right? It's how did you score on the math test, right? How did you do in that class? And that's what the Opscore number is. So we thought the dirt alert should just be a reference point. We're not going to call it balls and strikes on this. We're going to say, okay, here's what Grok 3, by the way, we're using Grok 3. Grok 3 found on a non-biased basis, is there evidence of extremism? And what is it? And we give it so we're putting that out there, but we want to make sure it's clear that this is like, you're the voter, you decide. We're putting it out there because it's not like we can say that you're corrupt and here's the evidence. It's going to be like, here's the data on, are you doing inside trading? Well, there's organizations that look at that. Okay, look at what you find. And we're just saying, stand back. Here's the data, you decide. But we want to put it out there. So, whatever we can find on it, we're making it easy, because as the voter, you're not going to spend 50 hours researching your candidates, right? Who's going to do that? Nobody. So we want to make it easy to just have a one-stop shop for you. Just look at the data on the score, and then we'll be adding in this corruption. It's not just the dirt alert. So it's corruption, fraud, extremism. I think hypocrisy is another one. So if you say you're going to do something and you go and do the opposite, that's data it can pull and say, well, you said you were going to do this, then you did that. And the public should know that.
I think every politician would be screwed with that one, both Republican and Democrat.
There's a lot of hypocrisy, so we want to keep exposing it. Now, you might say, well, there's a lot of corruption and a lot of fraud, or a lot of, but then who has less of it? I guess sometimes you're down to 2 or 3 choices, and you have to cheat the least of the evils. But the more we can hold these people accountable, the less crap there's going to be, and then they're going to feel it. So that's what we think. It's kind of fun. Do you like the dirt alert? It's kind of fun. But you have to be careful. If that was done in the private sector, it would be like, you can do a certain amount of politicians. You really can't sue for defamation unless it's extreme. Like if we said that you were doing something, diddling kids or something insane, right? You'd get sued for that. But outside of extreme things, politicians, like Newsom is trying to sue Fox News for
defamation. He's ridiculous. But even, it's not hard to see the dirt. You look at Nancy Pelosi and a stock portfolio doing better than every single big fund that's out there, tripling the returns. It tells you a lot. And you look at these politicians, someone like Bernie Sanders, that's been in office for decades, making a salary of $180,000 to $200,000. Yet the guy owns 3 homes and he's a multimillionaire now. And yes, book sales and all that. But it shows you that a lot of them are hypocrites, a lot of them are frauds. And as far as Grand Opportunity USA, what do you hope the people will get out of it?
Well, I hope they'll learn, first of all, that understand the purpose of America and the reason why we are America, the reason why we're successful. Everything we have is in our success is because of American values of freedom, liberty, and opportunity, and ultimately having the people come ahead of governments to serve the government to serve serving the person. This mayor candidate in New York, Zoldan guy, not only is he, I mean, he's evil. I mean, I would say the word evil because he's pushing evil ideals like socialism and Marxism and Islamism and all the things that are just the anti-civilization ideas that destroy, that have caused the deaths of millions of people and destroyed societies. America, because of freedom, liberty, and opportunity, and the people come before the government. The government is there to serve the people. They're the servants of the people. So first of all, learn that and know that. And then check out their scores and say if they're working for you. If they're not working for you, you effectively can fire them collectively by just not voting for them and voting for the person who is. And over time, we hope sooner rather than later, we'll get a government that's working for the people again. And that's the best form of government because I will trust the 80% common sense person all day long over an ideologue. I don't know what you think. I mean, I don't care if an ideologue left or right. I don't care who you are. Well, don't you trust the common sense American over anybody else? I do. I'd rather go with common sense as long as we're there within the boundaries of the rules of the game, which is the Constitution and human rights. That's just the only condition. Make sure you play within those. That's the guardrails of the system. Provided you play within those guardrails, the 80% common sense person I trust, that's who's in charge of our country when this happens.
And I think that's an important message, especially given that it's July 4th week and, people should go back to the basics, read the Declaration of Independence. I'm putting out a full episode tomorrow on the America's Founding series where I break down what the Declaration actually means. So everyone check it out. But I think too many people have forgotten what this country is, the ideals behind it, the principles, the vision of the Founding Fathers, and most importantly, the American identity. And I think your organization is something that begins to restore that. So, John Paul, I really want to thank you for being here. Everyone needs to visit Grand Opportunity USA. Links up on the P.A.S. report website, so make sure that you check it out. Thanks so much for coming in, John Paul.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for having me, and God bless, and go USA.
Thank you for listening to the P.A.S. Report. Don't forget to rate, share, and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll never miss an episode. For more exclusive content and updates, visit us at PASreport.com and follow Professor Giordano on all social media platforms at P.A.S. Report.